We are so close to season 2024 kicking off, and as West Coast fans, I'm sure we all have that preseason optimism. 2024 is a year with some opportunity. There's a distinct lack of pressure, I would say. Obviously, we don't want to repeat what we saw in 2022 and 2023, but there's a lot of new young talent on the list. There's a chance to reinvent the game style, see genuine growth. And the recipe is there to have a fun, enjoyable season where, like I said, we get to use this season as an opportunity. And part of that opportunity will be seeing new players debut for the West Coast Eagles for the first time that we haven't seen before. Now, I had a look and there are 9 players listed with the West Coast Eagles, either on their main list or their rookie list or Cat B list or whatever. 9 players who have not played in a proper game of AFL football for the club. So, in this video, I'm going to take you through 6 that I think we could potentially see this year. And before I do that, I will go through the players that I don't think are super realistic. There are 3 players where I think it would be crazy ambitious if we really predicted we'd see them in 2024. The first one is probably our number 1 pick in the rookie draft in Locke Rawlinson. Now, I like the look of Locke Rawlinson. He's a small forward drafted out of South Australia, super quick, pretty crafty around goals, good sense of pressure, but pretty sure when he was drafted, his weight started with the number 6, which just suggests he's going to have to put on a little bit of muscle before he's realistically in the frame for a debut. I'm optimistic we will see him play for the Eagles. I like what I see, but when you consider as well, we just traded in Tyler Brockman. Noah Long's emerged as a bit of a young gun. Jamie Cripps is having great form. The depth of talent in our forward line is at a point where Locke Rawlinson can probably just put his best foot forward in the waffle and see how he goes. Potentially a debut in 2025. The other 2 are both players we drafted last year that are both over 200 centimeters. Archer Reed at 203 centimeters and probably 60 odd kilos. No, I'm just being facetious there. Obviously a tall, skinny, athletic prospect, and also, spent a lot of this preseason in a knee brace. So I think with Archer Reed, the focus for him will be getting fit as quick as possible and be able to make an impact in the waffle. And I would say the same about our Cat B rookie in Cohen Livingston, who by contrast is a lot more physically ready-made, but nonetheless a raw prospect. Over 200 centimeters, going to be playing in the ruck. Touch wood, I think if we see Cohen Livingston debut this year, it's probably because we have some sort of crisis with our injury list again. Touch wood, again. I'm going to say that in every video. Great, so I'm going to talk about the other 6 players who have not debuted that I think we could see in 2024. Before I get into that, I do want to thank you again for getting around this True Eagle YouTube channel. I've been working really hard to push out some content and try and get this YouTube channel monetized by the start of the season. So everything I've done so far, I've just been working for free. And that's completely fine, and I'm happy with the way the channel's gone so far. It's interesting looking at the analytics of the video. More people are clicking on it when they see a True Eagle video than on True Footy, and on average, they're watching longer. So it seems like we've made a really good start, but for whatever reason, YouTube isn't doing its best to push out my video to new people. So all I'm asking from you is if you enjoy the content, could you just give YouTube some signals that you do like it? Could you like the video? Could you leave a comment down below? Only if you're enjoying the content, that's all I ask. Great, let's go through 6 players that I think we could feasibly see in season 2024, and I will start with the most obvious. So I will rank it from most likely to least likely. The first one is Harley Reed. Obviously, Harley Reed has been so much in the media lately that we kind of almost forget he hasn't played an actual game of football for us yet, but he will naturally be the first to debut, you'd think, again, barring injury. But, I mean, this kid looks ready for AFL already. And, some kids come into the AFL system and they can contribute. Look at Harry Sheasel. Like, if you've got outside skills, you've got some ability, you've got some nous, you can contribute at AFL level. Harley Reed's one of the few that I've ever seen that could come in and could probably shrug off a tackle from just about any player in the comp. Part of that is he's physically built. Like, he is a thick boy. Secondly, I think there's some jiu-jitsu prowess in there as well. He does jiu-jitsu, and the way he threw off Jinbi, you kind of got the sense it was more technique than anything. But anyway, I don't need to sell you on Harley Reed. Walk-up start for round 1. The second most likely current uncapped player is probably Clay Hall. Now, the stick in the mud here is that he has just done an ankle injury that might sideline him for 3 to 4 weeks. Now, we've heard he's done pretty well in pre-season, like his intensity, his inside game for an 18-year-old kid has been pretty much up to standard already. The other things that work in Clay Hall's favour, he's 6'3" and probably in the high 80s for weight. Don't forget, we're not allowed to see players' weights anymore. But I'm extrapolating based on his draft weight. But he did play a lot of league football last year for Peel Thunder in the actual waffle and averaged about 18.6 disposals a game. In his second game at waffle, he had 27 touches. So what we do see here is a player with both balanced inside and outside game that has shown an ability to step up to a new level and contribute. Sounds like he was already a bit of a round 1 bolter. Obviously, we have to push back our expectations now he's done an injury, and we don't want to rush this kid in before he's ready. Give him the time to recover and feel comfortable at waffle level perhaps, and then see how he goes at AFL level. But the fact that he can play potentially on a wing also serves him well for trying to crack a debut because comparatively, there's probably less competition on our wings than there is at the coalface. But either way, I do expect we do see Clay Hall this season. Now, there's 4 more players I think we could potentially see. The next one is Kobe Burgio, and I've talked about this guy before, particularly on True Footy, and I do think this guy has some nice AFL level attributes. I've called a little bit on expecting to see him too early this year for a couple of reasons. First of all, he had a bit of a hamstring complaint in the off-season recently, and that followed a hamstring surgery that ended his season last year. So that may be a bit hesitant, although the good news is it sounds like he's playing, and I think he played in the intra-club and is potentially going to play in the preseason games too. Comparatively, we haven't heard as good things about Burgio this offseason as we have about Clay Hall, which is another reason to think he's probably not as likely as Clay Hall to play too early. I also factor in we do kind of have a depth of medium defender types now, and he's probably going to have to rely on injury or form dips from guys like Witherden, Cole, Duggan, Jones, and Hoffa. You can't imagine all of those fit into the same team, so if 1 or 2 are unavailable, I see Burgio coming in, and I do have faith that he has what it takes to AFL level. The next most likely, in my opinion, is a player I commented on in both of my last 2 True Eagles videos in Tyrell Dewar, and I'm really having to reprogram my brain to say Dewar instead of Dewar, but we'll go with it. I believe it's Dewar. But a Cat B rookie from the end of the 2022 season, and I thought had a pretty damn good year for a player that probably wasn't Waffle League ready last year, and with the lack of support in the Waffle team last year to end the season the way he did, he had a 20 touch and 1 goal game against Subi, averaged 15 touches in his last 6 games, and in the intra-club, like I said, did a couple of things to suggest that maybe not at the start of the season, but by the end of the year, Dewar could find his way into the team. What works against him again as well is if you assume we have a normal injury run, he's probably behind guys like Ryan, Long, Cripps, and Brockman. Brockman coming into this team makes it a little bit harder for Dewar, but fingers crossed, he gets an opportunity. Then I think there's a bit of a gap to the next most likely player to debut, but I do think it's still possible that we see Harvey Johnston this year. Now, there's a reason for this. Now, Harvey Johnston is pretty skinny, he's pretty raw, but what he does have is athleticism, he's quick, he's evasive, and he has good skills. Doesn't really sound like he's going to be close to a game earlier in the season, so this one is a long shot, but I certainly wouldn't rule him out. And the reason is, if he has the ability to play high half forward or more of a wing role, like I said, I don't think we have massive depth in those positions, and someone like an Andrew Gaff could be vulnerable to losing his spot if someone like a Harvey Johnston puts in a really good block of form in the Waffle toward the back end of the season, for instance. He has that speed, he has that skill, and we probably lack that in terms of attributes on our list. The guys he's probably competing with are Gaff, like I said, Chesser probably on a wing spot, Luke Edwards as well, who's a bit of an unknown at this point. Jaden Hunt, I like on a wing. It does sound like he's playing a bit with the backs at the moment, and of course Clay Hall. So long shot here for Harvey Johnston, but again, I could foresee he puts in a good 4 weeks in the Waffle between round 15 and 19, and we see a surprise debut. I think it's possible. And the 6th player that I think we could potentially see debut this year is Jordan Baker, another Cat B rookie who, in comparison to Tyrell Dewar, is a little bit more AFL ready, or at least he certainly was drafted that way, but still a pretty skinny and raw kid. But heard some pretty good things about his performances at Waffle level last year, averaging about 16 touches, 4.5 marks. He's skinny, but he plays with good intensity. His work rate's pretty good from what I understand. So again, probably coming from a long way back. And like I said, if you factor in all the players probably ahead of him as far as medium defenders go, it's probably a long shot, but I also don't think it's completely inconceivable that if Jordan Baker has a good run of form in the Waffle towards the back end of the year, he makes a surprise debut as well. So he's the least likely of the players that I think could debut, but certainly more likely than the 200 centimeter players and Locke Rawlinson. Anyway, guys, that is my take on some currently uncapped Eagles. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.